The Joe Rogan Experience.
It's just a crazy thing that you've done, and it begs the question: when you do crazy things, like, does this change you as a person? Does walking across Antarctica is one, rowing across the Drake Stretch, is it what's called? Drake Passage is another. Like, is this changing you as a person? Like, what are these? Because these are experiences where if you told someone, hey, you're going to sleep 90 minutes at a clip, and then you're going to row for 90 minutes, and you're going to poop into a bucket, and you're going to sleep like a sardine with a bunch of other dudes on this boat. You're not going to sleep much. You're probably going to hallucinate. Sometimes you're going to row in the dark.
Sing songs.
Yeah, but you'll get through it, though. A couple weeks later, you'll be done.
Yeah.
Like, these are weird things that you're doing that's sort of changing. Like, your personal life experiences are so much more extreme than the average person's.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one of my reasons for doing this, for sure, is to test the limits of my own potential and grow. I'm not doing them just to so that I can be the exact same person on the other side of Antarctica or the other side of Drake Passage. It's to take that learning. And, I've been asked a similar question, I guess, before, but my answer, or the way that I kind of think about it, is I've started to think about life how do I put this? I've started thinking about life and the totality of life experience between, say, a numerical 1 and 10. 1 being the worst day of your life and 10 being the best day of your life. And, 1 might be, a day that a family member passes away, or 1 might be being wet and cold and freezing in an ocean rowboat, spooning with this other guy and, been shit in a bucket and being exhausted and tired, just rough moments in your life, right? And 10 is this hedonistic joy, the most pleasure-filled day ever, just happy, joyful, maybe you've succeeded in something you've accomplished, all this kind of stuff. And as I've kind of looked around at the world, people say, what are you afraid of? You must not be afraid of being alone, or you must not be afraid of, these hard challenges or stuff like that. I'm like, maybe not. But what I'm really afraid of is actually living a life range bound between 4 and 6. I think too often people, the typical life experience, unfortunately, because we have some creature comforts, particularly in the Western world, where, you can live a life and just stuck between 4 and 6. So maybe the happiest day of your year or your week, it's like the Super Bowl and your team wins the Super Bowl and you crush a couple beers with your buddy and you high five and you're like, oh, that was awesome. That was cool. But it's not 10. I mean, it's a 6. And then maybe the worst day of your week, it's a Monday and your boss yells at you or something like that. And you're just you're like, oh man, that's kind of bummer. But you know what? I don't really give a shit about my job anyway. So I'm not really that bummed about it. It just is. I'm just kind of in this life of quiet desperation in the middle. And I think a lot of that has to do with because we're hedging or we're afraid of the ones. We're just I don't want to experience a 1. I don't want to experience discomfort. I don't want to experience pain, anything to do that. But what I've realized, I think of it kind of a pendulum, swinging the totality of life experience. To get to the 10s, you also need to embrace the 1s. The totality of life and the experience. I'm not experiencing these high highs or these hedonistic joys or these beautiful flow states or things like that, in spite of the 1s, in spite of the challenge, but it's because of them.
Yeah.
By pulling my sled, 53 days, on my 53rd day of pulling my sled across Antarctica, I get there, my hips are poking out, my ribs are sticking out, I'm exhausted, I can barely pick my duffel bag up to put it in my sled, my body's completely compromised, I'm exhausted. But then I tap into the deepest flow state of my entire life. I find this place in my mind, in my body, in my soul. And, I pushed 32 hours without stopping to the finish line. And I wouldn't have gotten there had I not pushed myself, had I not, gone through this difficulty. I like to say that, pain is mandatory. These challenges are painful, straight up. Pain is mandatory. Make no mistake about this. Obvious things I'm doing are painful, they're hard, whatever. But the suffering part is optional.
Yeah.
You don't have to be in these moments so wound up, oh my God, this is horrible, I'm in this, and why did I get myself out there, this is terrible, blah, 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 and go down this path. You're I'm doing this because when I step outside of my comfort zone, I grow. And as I grow, I can share that with other people and hopefully have that ripple effect of positivity and inspiration that's lasting in the world for others as well.
Yeah, you mentioned one of my favorite quotes ever, the Thoreau quote, most men live lives of quiet desperation.
I love that, yeah.
That's a great fucking quote and so damn true. I think you're right. I think you really need very difficult things in your life in order to appreciate real comfort and relaxation.
Absolutely.
I don't think you hit it if your whole life is just soft cushions and everything's made out of velour and people are feeding you grapes. I think you live like an asshole.
Yeah.
I think we don't like that because no one really, suffering is hard. It's hard. It feels uncomfortable. But you don't realize that unless you suffer, you don't appreciate calm. You don't appreciate peace. I think there's just far too many people out there seeking comfort.
I agree with that. And I think that it's funny because people are going towards that. They're hedging against discomfort. Like, okay, well, how to make this as comfortable as possible. And then they sit there and they're like, why am I unsatisfied? Why am I not happy?
Never.
And it's like, because you're hedging against discomfort, because you're trying to make, like you said,
It's poor education, really. People are not educated on what it takes in order to be fulfilled in life. The idea is that material possessions or some modicum of success is the goal. It's not. Difficult tasks is what make you do something that's hard to do something that's interesting, do something that's complicated and intricate, do something that requires you to stretch your boundaries.